Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So this is part 2 in our little power plant pen test simulation. In the first video, if you haven't seen that, I'll leave a link in the description. We managed to capture a hash for Homer. We left it there. So in the first one, we did some initial enumeration on the domain from an unauthenticated standpoint. We checked to see if any traffic was going across the network using TCP dump. Nothing interesting really going across. We also ran fping to see what hosts were live on the network, followed by a nmap scan, and we found 2 hosts. We've got a domain controller and Homer's PC. So at this point, we've got Homer's credentials, so now we can start actually enumerating the domain from an authenticated standpoint, which is a lot more powerful. We can actually get a lot more results, even with a low-level user. So that's what we're going to jump in today. So let's now see if we can access any shares initially to see if we can find any hidden information. There's some shares come back. Okay, so let's connect to one of them. Can't access C. So we don't have access to list anything in there. Okay. What else we got? HR. Can't see anything in there. Quickly check. IT. Nothing in there. Public. Nothing in there. That's great. So nothing interesting. It's probably worth checking that again with netexec to see if it returns the read and write permissions a bit easier instead of clicking into each one individually. So yeah, you look there, we can see our permissions at IPC, netlogon, public, and the sysvol folders. We can actually read. Didn't check. Just check on the actual that PC we found as well. Anything comes back on there? Nah, nothing comes back on there. Okay, so nothing useful there either. So that's fine. So now we could look into, now that we've got Homer's credentials, we could look into actually pulling some domain information. So there's a couple of ways we can do it. And another thing I actually want to check as well, using netexec, is do we have WinRM access to anything? So that will allow us to log in with either WinRM if this comes back positive. Nope, not on 51. Domain controller, I doubt it. Nope, not on that one either. We can't log into WinRM on any of those. What about RDP? That would be useful. Nothing on domain controller. So we can RDP onto that machine with Homer. So that's good to know. So we will do that, but not right now. So we need to get some domain information. There's a couple of ways we can do it. And now that we know we can RDP, so that's changed my sort of thought process. So when we get on that, I'm going to probably use Sharphound to extract some data to put into Bloodhound. But if we didn't want to do that, we can make an LDAP folder and we can use LDAP domain dump. And this will dump all the domain information using our user, Homer. So it is any grep information. Don't want any JSON data. DNS server. Is that it? Is that enough? Username must include a domain. Of course it does. With a backslash. Here we go. So now we should have a set of folders or a set of files. And if we open these up, let's look at the main users. See what we got. Waylon Smithers, Cole Carlson, Lenny, Homer, Charles Montgomery Burns, and some default users. And oh dear, we've actually got Homer's clear text password in the description. We've also got a clear text password for Mr. Burns, so straight away we've got to try that. We move back into our scans folder. It's got the targets in there, so we can just use that to type them out manually. So what was his username? Or his SAM name? Mr. Burns, that's his login name. And his password was... Surely this isn't going to work because he's a domain admin. I mean, if we get this straight away, I said it's game over. No. Password FL, so that's obviously put in there by the IT as some sort of reminder, which is obviously still, and even though it's not the password, or it might be an old password, that's bad practice. So this would actually be another finding. We'd want to report to the client. So Mr. Burns needs to know about this. Okay, what else have we got? The main policy, that's another good one we could look at. See if we can get any sort of password information, default password length. The lockout time, 10 minutes, lockout threshold, none, so there's no lockouts. Minimum password length of 7, has got complexity onto it. We've got machine account quota 10, which is the default, so that would enable us to do attacks like resource-based constrained delegation, which we will look at in other videos. Main groups, management, engineering, IT, HR. Okay. So this is good for just getting information that we can pull down and just look at our leisure. But because we've got RDP access, that's definitely the way forward. So we need to log into that, upload Sharphound, and then pull down the LDAP information that we can then feed into Bloodhound, so we can get some real visibility into the network and see if we can find any escalation vectors. Right, so let's just see if we can actually connect via RDP, and apparently we can. Let's try this. Good sign. Excellent. So we've got access to the RDP. So now usually we want to go do all sorts of stuff here. I know we're just going to upload the Sharphound and pull that down, but because we've got access to an actual computer now, we can do all sorts of kind of enumeration on the PC itself. Look for files, credentials, look for any sort of information laying about, see what services are running, see what we can actually access, see what we can use, see what groups we're part of. We will do all that, but I'm going to save that for a different video. This one's just going to concentrate on the specific attack, so we're progressing into that as we go. So let's just see, because like I say, yeah, you want to get on it straight away. You'd be running who am I? Checking our groups. Desktop users. Doesn't look like anything interesting. Check our privs. Again, nothing of interest, so let's see if we can get this Sharphound on here. Do it in case insensitive. Okay. And there it is. Let's just copy that one. A new folder called Bloodhounds to keep us a bit more organised. Move into that. And we will copy it into here. So now we've got the Sharphound exe in this folder. Okay, open the files up. See if we can see if their firewall's on. Because if it is, this will get detected 100%. No pop-up, so that looks good. So now we want to run this to extract our information for Bloodhound, so we can pump it into there and start mapping a potential escalation path. I should have created a zip folder, which it has done. We've pulled that off. Excellent. So if we come out of that for now. So now that we've got our zip folder that we need to put into Bloodhound, let's open up Bloodhound. Still using the default credentials that it's provided with, which is admin. Let's just isolated lab, so it's fine. So now we want to get that zip file. Load that zip file. Upload. And then we'll wait for that to ingest and do its thing. Okay, so that's successfully ingested, so that's complete. Let's go and take a look at what we've got. So if we search for home, because we know we've got his credentials, and we can add into owned. Let's have a look at some of the built-in. So if we go shortest path to the domain admins. It's always a good one to look at. So there's our Mr. Burns again. He's a member of the domain admins. So he's a high-level target. Shortest paths from owned objects, meaning people that we set as owned. So we've set Homer as owned, so that should come up. So Homer, a member of the domain users. Nothing spicy there. Okay, let's keep looking. Shortest paths to domain admins from Kerber roastable users. No results. I'll quickly go back and look at our users. See if there's anything interesting in here. We kind of just skimmed over this. Normal account does not expire. Does not expire. Don't pre-auth. So that don't require pre-auth. That means we should be able to run a AS rep roast on Lenny. So if we go and check, look for Lenny. Do not require pre-authentication. That's good. We could use him for that attack. Right, so let's try that. Let's just close that down for a minute. So we can use InPacket's tool for this. Get NP users. And this is only going to work if he's got a crackable password. Same as like when we got Homer's hash. It's a similar thing, but it's a Kerberos ticket that we get instead. But if he's got a weak password, we'll be able to crack it. Let's look at the help for this. How do we use it? Domain / username password. Okay. Springfield.local, which is our domain. Homer.simpson, his password, and the target, which is a domain controller. But before we actually run that, there should be a few output options that we can use. Output file and format. So we'll do Lenny's hash, and what's the other one? Format. We'll do hashcat, so that we can pipe this straight into hashcat. See if we get anything. Springfield.local, name or service not known. Backslash, isn't it? I think we've got to put in the DC IP address. The main controller IP. The main should be specified. We've got a backslash. This time it's going to work. No. What? Springfield.local. Homer Simpson : It's because we still got I've kept the bloody thing in it, that's why. Right, this time. No. Right, we haven't got the IP on it. Right. 20th time's a charm. There we go. Check that that's... Yeah, so we got Lenny's hash now. I'm going to save that to our hashes. I might make a subfolder. Okay. So now we want to put this into hashcat 1820 for the module and our word list. I mentioned this previously in the last video as well. If you're a little bit rusty on password attacks and cracking, I have got a video which I'll link in the description. So let's see if we can get a clear text password from this, because if we can, it's an extra step into the domain, and then we can check what privileges and what groups Lenny's a part of. So if we go back to our domain users, Lenny's in the engineering users group, same as Carl, so that could give us some extra access. So that's finished, that's cracked, and the password is 14 firepower. And we have that. Let's actually check to see auth him against the domain controller. Yes, that is definitely his password. Excellent. So enumeration at this point is a bit of a iterative process. And now that we've got him, we want to kind of repeat the same steps we did for Homer. So we're going to want to check shares again, because he might have access to different stuff as he's in the engineering group. And we want to see if we can log in with him again, because he might have different groups and privileges that we can abuse. Let's go back and check Lenny again, see what we can. Now that we've got his password, I'm going to add him to owned. And then we could actually just click on the side and see what he's got access to. I might come back to and do that in a second. Short is passed from owned objects. Okay, let's go back to our Lenny, check him manually. So if we got, see our do not require pre-auth flag, that's what allowed us to pull his ticket. And if you don't know what it is actually doing, this do not require pre-authentication, it basically means that we can request authentication items for a specific user without knowing their password. That's basically what that means. So we don't need the pre-authentication. We can just pull it without even needing to use his password. Just to check his membership. What's he a member of? Anything exciting? Engineering users, domain users. So nothing too exciting there. Outbound. So we've got generic write. Right, this is interesting. So generic write means that we can, so if we've got generic write on an object, basically what that means is we can modify the object that we have write over. So for example, to this SVC backup, we can modify its attributes. I think actually if we click on, it actually tells us in Bloodhound, if you click on the actual permission and it actually lists out information here. So because we're using Linux, we're on a Kali box, we click on this and it shows us what we can do with this access, with this level of permission. So we can do a targeted Kerberoast on SVC backup. And again, if it's got a weak password, we could crack it. Shadow credentials attack. Now we need to check some shares just to cover all areas, make sure we're not missing anything. Like I said, it's an iterative process. You kind of go back to the beginning once you get new credentials and you just sort of restart it all over again. So actually, let's use netexec to see what we've got access to. It should give us, if we've got read or write access on any of the folders. See what this comes back with on a domain controller. So we've got read on engineering this time. Okay. Let's pull this down, see if there's of any interest. What does this say? Verify coolant system pressure is stable, confirm control insertion, execute scram sequence. So that looks like that might be a computer name, possibly. Log shutdown event in reactor operations log. So nothing hugely useful. So at least we've looked at it. We've checked that there wasn't anything in there that we needed. So we need to check that we can actually log in again with RDP. And we can, that's good. So let's do that. Okay, while that's loading, I'm going to open up another terminal here. So we need to use PowerView. Copy that into tools folder so that we can copy that across when we're signed in. All right, we've got that on there, that's good. So if you don't know what PowerView is, it's basically a Active Directory recon tool, and it uses sort of built on top of the Windows native functionality. It's a brilliant tool. A lot of the time it will get flagged up on virus protection. So now that we've got that in there, you know what, I'm going to sign out of this because it's quite a small window. Let's just make it a bit bigger. 1920, 1080. That's better. Hopefully you can see that all right now. If we move into the documents folder, need to load it in, need to import a module. running scripts is disabled, that's fine. It just means we need to set the execution policy. The execution policy bypass scope process. Run it again. So now, as we remember what we're doing, we've, as Lenny, so let's check Lenny's permissions quickly. Remote desktop users, engineering users. So the actual groups themselves aren't that interesting. Got any special privs? We've got no special privs either. Okay. Now that we've got Power View loaded in, we should be able to set the password now. SVC backup, out password. Give it password 123, nice and simple. As plain text. Press enter. Okay, so we're getting permission denied on that, which is a little bit strange because I thought we had access to. Oh, hang on a minute. We've got generic right, not generic all. So to reset a password, you need generic all. But that's fine, we've got generic right. And it actually told us, to be fair, in here, what we can do. So if we go back to this, we do a targeted Kerberos attack. So that's what we do instead. So we'll set an SPN on the user. That will allow us to pull their hash down. And if it's weak, we'll be able to crack it. Then we'll have his password. Then we should be able to pull the domain credentials. So let's do that instead. Get rid of that. Set domain object. SVC backup. Set. What's wrong with that? Why is that not working? Ah, I spent principal wrong. So we're going to give an MS. We're going to set the SPN on the user, which will then allow us to do a Kerberos attack on them. Okay, so that's done. So now, should be able to use in-packets get user SPNs tool. And this is kind of similar to when we did the AS rep roast attack on Lenny. It's basically the same, kind of the same sort of attack. Let's look at the options. Got out file again. Okay, so it's definitely found it, which is good. But we didn't get it. What are we missing? A request. Ah, yeah, dash request. We need to say request to actually request it. There we go. Say this as SVC's hash. Now we've got to try and crack it, and fingers crossed we can get a clear text password. And if we can, it should be game over. We save this down. Save this in our credentials. Check it against the domain controller like we normally do, just to double check it actually works. And it does, that's good. If we look at SVC, see if they've got any special permissions. We have got an outbound on something. Now that we've got his password, if we add it to the owned. So reset him to owned. Output object control. We can also see that he can run get changes on the domain. And if we look at the abuse for Linux, you may perform a desync attack to get the password hashes of arbitrary principal. So that's saying we might be able to do a desync attack. So let's try that. We've got our domain, our user, a password that we cracked. See what happens if we run that. Yeah. So there you go. Game over. we have just pulled down all the hashes from the domain controller. We've got the admin password there, so if we take his hash and see if we can sign in as him. Yeah, so it definitely works. And there we go. We're in as the admin on the domain. DC01, domain compromise. So Mr. Burns has asked us to leave it as that. He said at any point when you compromise a domain, don't go any further. Just let us know. We will remediate the issue and then we will retest it. So this video has demonstrated a few things. We've obviously, in the previous video, got Homer's hash, cracked it, got his password. We could then use his credentials to enumerate the domain. We saw that Lenny had the do not require pre-authentication set on his account. That's allowed us to perform an AS rep roast attack on him. We got his hash. Again, he had another weak password, so we cracked it. And then we see that we could then add an SPN to the SVC backup user. And then that user had excessive rights over the domain, which allowed us to do a DC sync attack. So we're going to leave it on that one. In the next video, we're going to look at another attack scenario. So we're going to imagine that their IT department has fixed this, so this is no longer an issue. So in the next video, we're going to start again. We'll still have Homer's credentials, but we will look for other vulnerabilities in the domain and then see what we can exploit and see if we can get domain admin again. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.